Hi there, I'm Yen, and welcome to my second video on motivation. In my last video, I talked about autonomy. In this video, I'm going to talk about competence. So welcome to That's Why, and let's get started. In my last video, I talked about how learning involves both motivation and interaction. A major component to motivation, or that desire or drive to learn, is emotional. To understand that emotional component, I introduced self-determination theory, or SDT. SDT states that we are internally motivated to persist in a task, such as learning, when our basic fundamental needs are met: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. I also shared how autonomy is about giving your child choices. When people have choices and the freedom to choose from these choices, they tend to be more motivated because that choice comes from within. Another way to think about it is that giving people choices eliminates the perception that they're being controlled by others. Most people, as you know, hate being controlled. Children are no exception to that. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can motivate your child by building on the competence piece of SDT. Competence is composed of two things: the actual skill, knowledge, and ability to do something, and the perception that one is able to complete the task. You can think of competence like this. You have two cliffs. The cliff on the left represents where your child is at in terms of any given situation. The cliff represents what your child already knows and understands. In other words, the cliff represents your child's current knowledge. You want your child to be able to get to the other cliff. I'm going to call this new knowledge, or representing your child's learning goals or expected progress. In this metaphor, learning is about progressing toward those learning goals. You do that by crossing the gap, by moving from one cliff to the other. This is where competency and confidence come into play. The gap is wider when you don't have enough current knowledge, and/or you don't have the confidence in your own ability to make it to the other side. If your child feels the gap is too wide, they won't even try. But also, if your child attempts the gap and doesn't make it, they can get overwhelmed. Frustration, quitting, or not even trying may be a sign that your child perceives that the gap is too wide, and maybe the gap is actually too wide. So what do you do to help students jump the gap? Use Scaffold. What that means is that you provide supports to help your child across. Scaffolds come in two forms: resources and encouragement. There are a lot of ways to scaffold your child's learning. Some of those ways include breaking a seemingly overwhelming task into smaller, doable tasks and steps, providing different examples. Maybe you model first, then invite your child to model, or you tell stories about success around an event. One time, when I was teaching paper airplanes at the library, a child flew her plane and it failed the first time. She crossed her arms and shut down. She didn't want to try again. For her, that gap was too wide. What I did was tell her the story of Thomas Edison and how he went through over 1,000 prototypes before he successfully came up with the light bulb. I told her that it wouldn't take 1,000 designs to get her airplane to fly. Maybe it'll take 2 tries or 3, but each time she tried, she would be one design closer to getting a successful paper airplane design. And you know what? She tried again. That brings me to the next scaffold: encouraging persistence and resilience. Psychological studies have shown that people are more motivated to persist when they're given praise and encouragement to continue. I'll say more about this in my next video on relatedness, but encouragement while providing supports helps students build their confidence. It also helps students get over the gap. Now, using a variety of resources is also a great way to build your child's knowledge and competence. In my video on autonomy, I talked about how giving children choices can actually help with motivation because it gives them some autonomy and control over the situation. You can raise a student's competence by providing a menu of different resources to scaffold moving across that gap. I like to think of learning as a concept that is a three-dimensional experience, like a diamond. Each facet of the diamond may represent a different piece of information, perspective, or experience. Some of these experiences are more suited to you personally than others. For example, if you've ever used YouTube to learn about something, do you check out several videos first before finding the one that gives you the information you're looking for? Some videos are easier to learn from than others, and often it's a matter of personal preference and style. The same goes for any learning experience. It's human nature to use different resources to find the information you need. I call these different resources and their forms modalities. These modalities include text, pictures, videos, games, audio like podcasts or lectures, and manipulatives like Legos and physical materials. So when it comes to teaching your child, they may need the same kind of flexibility. When you see that your child might be confused about a concept, see if you can find the information explained or presented in a different modality. Sometimes interacting with the information in different ways can really help children digest and understand a concept. Finally, provide different opportunities for your child to test their boundaries and experiment, take risks, and grow. Have your child try something new. Give them spaces to experiment and encourage experimentation and reflection. Then finally, allow time for your child to think, process, and understand. Time is grossly overlooked in schools these days, even though it takes a lot of time for new things to be learned. That's the reason why, if you've ever crammed for a test, you tend to forget everything after a couple of weeks. Real learning requires time and a lot of engagement. That processing time cannot be rushed. So one way to account for time is to revisit the project or topic. When your child gets frustrated, you can set whatever it is aside. You can even tell your child to give it time and that you'll revisit things for later. Time is magical. It's like marinating meat. After a couple hours, days, or weeks, when you come back, it's never the same thing. When you come back to a topic, your child may be able to see it in another way. I like to call this simmering things on the back burner. Revisit things again. When you revisit these things, it teaches your child two really important lessons. One, that giving things time to simmer is a great way to think through problems, and two, you're teaching your child that we don't give up and that persistence is good. Which brings me back to my last video regarding play. Play not only gives your students autonomy, it nurtures experimentation, risk-taking, trying new things, and testing boundaries. These are opportunities to help your child build their self-confidence and in turn their competence, because they learn about their own capabilities and also how to create and invent to reach past them to grow. I want to add one more thing to put things in perspective. Right now, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and there are parents out there that are totally freaking out and melting down because there's this expectation that they're supposed to teach their students the same way that their students are taught in class. Now, unless you're a teacher or someone in your family is a teacher, the expectation that you should be teaching your child like school is an unrealistic expectation for yourself and for any district or school who is expecting you to do this. Your kids are not in school. Learning at home is not the same as learning at school, and it shouldn't be. Instead, I invite you to bring organic learning into your family in ways that feel right and natural. It is my hope that these videos give you techniques to enhance your child's experiences, to help them make the most out of them, but without the expectation that you're going to be teaching or replacing your child's teacher. It's not your job to do that. Your job is to love and support your child. Now, I also want to thank those patrons who have generously supported me with the making of this video. Thank you. Now, if you'd like to see your name in one of these videos, I invite you to be one of my patrons by visiting my Patreon page. Your donation help support the work I create, which in turn is going to help others. You can find my Patreon link in the description below. In this video, I shared tips on how boosting your child's competence can help motivate them to learn. Stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to show you how relatedness and how we interact socially can help motivate learning as well. The other thing I want to bring up is that we have in the works an online support system that's going to help families teach their students from home. So when you visit my YouTube channel, I invite you to subscribe, and I invite you to check out the descriptions because soon there's going to be links there to give you lots of resources and support to make your job teaching from home a lot easier. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm wishing you good health, be well, be safe out there, and I will see you soon. Thank you.